And good afternoon and happy Aloha Friday to Team Edwards. As always, I'm Laz Gordon. I'm joined by my favorite cast of characters with me today is Chief Aishin and Colonel Westy as well. So we wanted to go through a couple of opening topics real quick. Again, the focus of these things, we're trying to shift a little bit away from the COVID stuff, since we've been talking about this ad nauseum, and I can imagine that gets a little bit hard to listen to over and over again. And this is really a forum where you can discuss anything that you want with senior leadership and have a direct line of communication, if you will, without having to go through 700 Praetorian guards to be able to bring issues to the attention of the command chief or myself. So what I'd like to do is go through just a couple of topics that were brought up on some previous ones, just to be able to go through and make sure that I'm responsive and I'm answering all of your questions that people have posed. But one COVID topic, if you will, is the HPCon change that we had since the last time we did one of these. So right before the long 4-day weekend, we changed and we actually upgraded the status of the base. We were at Charlie, and we were able to move that up to Bravo. That was driven by a lot of really good data, right? The first thing is the local ICU capacity seemed to be improving, and as we track the numbers even since then, it's improving even still from that point. So the concern there was always that if something happened to one of our Edwards personnel, one of our Edwards family, where they were in a scenario where they contract COVID and things start going downhill pretty quickly, we needed to have confidence that there were local capacity in the area that could properly treat them in an ICU, to be intubated, etc. And there were a period of weeks there where that wasn't the case, and it was just driven by just atrociously bad numbers in California, in the local area, even in the numbers that we were seeing on Edwards Air Force Base. That trend has since reversed and has gone in a very, very good direction. And so we have confidence now that we do have the medical support that we need in the local community. They're doing spectacular work, and as always, we thank them for what they do. So that was positive trend number one. Positive trend number two is that coming off of Christmas break, there's a lag time where we get numbers, but because there's a lag in reporting, because it's Christmas break, because people are traveling, because there's an incubation period for the virus, it wasn't really sure. We weren't really sure the data that we were looking at, if we could actually have confidence in what that data was actually telling us. Our estimate was that somewhere around Martin Luther King weekend is about the point where we think the data would start looking pretty good, and we can make some command level decisions based on what we were seeing. So once we passed that milestone and we were looking at the trend, we saw a much improved trend for Edwards Air Force Base specifically in terms of our infections, who's quarantined, who's isolated. And so all those were trending in the right direction. So for all those reasons, we looked and we said, we've got good behaviors on base. We've got good data that we can look at with respect to California, with the region. We've got good ICU trending information. For all those reasons, it was like, you know what? It's time to reward the base. Let's throttle back. Let's go to Bravo. And in Bravo, if you go to our Facebook site or if you go to the website for Edwards Air Force Base, you'll see a list of things that our MSG team has done a spectacularly good job in terms of saying these things are open. We're opening up for outdoor dining. This is what we can do with respect to bowling. Here's what's going to happen with respect to our theater. So for all those reasons, it's a good trend. So we would encourage from now heading forward, the weather's improving, more outdoor activities are available. We're getting some greater confidence in our vaccine schedule, and so Colonel Westy will talk a little bit more to that. But for all those reasons, now's the time to go to Bravo and to really open things up. We still expect people to kind of maintain the right behaviors in terms of wash your hands, wear the mask, and preserve the physical distance where you can. So for all those reasons, that's why we're at Bravo now. It still allows for our retirees to come in. We're still doing Wednesdays, and we're still doing weekends and holidays. So for instance, this 4-day weekend that we just went through, it was open for retiree access the entire time because it's a national holiday, AFMC Family Day. Those things are still in place, and we're still looking good there. So that's what I had to say on HPCon Bravo. Happy to take some questions on that if people have some questions along the way. The other one, I wanted to bring up a couple spots, and then we'll kind of turn it over to Chief and Colonel Westy. There was a great question that came up in our previous town hall about the condition of Roseman Boulevard. as you drive in, specifically holes in the roads, right, as you're driving along through there. As a tribute to our civil engineering team, they joined this town hall. They're on the line and they listen to this stuff. Even before we got done taking off microphones and walking out the door, I already had a message from Civil Engineering Squadron saying, or the Civil Engineering Group saying, yep, acknowledge, we got it, and here's our plan. So they've already begun work to repair some of those holes that you see on Roseman Boulevard. They're working also to repair some of the pavements and some of our parking lots that we have here. But the expectation is by about the beginning of March or so, we should be complete with the repairs on that. So for the viewer that brought that up, again, thank you, right? That's the whole reason why we do these, is so that you can make us aware of things that might take a little bit longer for us to get knowledge of. But we want to be able to show that we're responsive to what you're bringing up, because again, this is our home. We live here, and so we want it to be in good shape. So thanks for bringing up the idea about the road condition. Again, your CE team is listening, and they care, and they took action on that. So give them a few more weeks, and we should be in good shape with respect to the roads. Same thing with respect to the school town hall. That was another question that came up. And so that immediately triggered a discussion with our MSG leadership. They're working with that directly with the Muroc schools. And so expect in the relative near future that there's going to be a school town hall again to allow the families on base to be able to ask questions directly to the school leadership and the MSG leadership about the reopening plans and what the school year is going to look like as we go through the rest of this year and then head into the upcoming school year. So stand by for more on that, but your MSG has received that request and they're working it right now. The final thing I have is with respect to SolidWorks. That was another question that came up about, hey, what's status on that? Again, your MSG, your CE groups, they're working that directly as well. So more to follow on that. We should have some more details that we can release soon, but just know that that project has not fallen by the wayside and that folks are actively working that. So stand by for more information with that. So those are the things I just wanted to kind of check the box off here, make sure that you understand that we do listen, we do care. As you bring up these things, we take notes. If we don't have the answer, we will go find the answer, and then we'll give you updates on the next one. So with that, Chief, any opening kind of comments?
Yes, sir. So around that time, we also got a few memos that I think confused some people. President of the United States put out a memo, POTUS, that kind of dictated mask wear on all DOD installations, boats, even federal buildings where there's federal employees, but we don't own the building. And so it was one letter, the way we've explained it, one single letter to cover every type of base or installation or boat or submarine or just everything that exists, which is really difficult to do. So DAF, the Department of the Air Force, put out another letter later. Really, what ended up happening is, for us, nothing. We have been wearing masks, and the wing commander had dictated a mask policy that was actually a little bit more stringent long ago because of the local area and what was happening. The only thing that I think has caused some confusion in the last 2 weeks is, do I have to wear a mask when I'm outside? Right. And the answer is, if I'm going to be within 6 feet of someone else, yes. If I go running by myself, and I will tomorrow, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not even going to have one with me. But I don't plan on going to the gym. I don't plan on going inside anybody's house, and I don't plan on going to the outdoor pad at the gym. If I was going to go to that pad, I would bring a mask, because if there's someone else already working out there, I need to put on my mask because we're going to be within a group. When we had our big Space Force transition ceremony, we had a lot of people. They were all outside, but we all wore masks because there were multiple times where we came within 6 feet of each other. And so if you're walking with your family, no, me and my wife can walk around the neighborhood with no masks on, but we're going to carry our masks just in case we do come up with some people and we want to go talk to them and say hello. And so that's pretty much what we've been doing the entire time. There aren't any changes to that. So if you hear anything or if you have any questions or confusion, please let me know, and we'll try to clear that up. But everything else that came out in those memos are pretty much what we're doing on this base. And so everything's unchanged there. But I bet there's going to be some questions, ma'am. I haven't even checked yet, but I bet we have some questions on vaccines and how that's going. So could you provide an update?
Yeah, so we are still giving out vaccines. We've given out the second dose from the first batch that we got in January. So we are wrapping that up this week to give out the second dose. So we were able to get over 1,000 people fully vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine, and we're finishing up that this week. We are expecting some more vaccination to come. Hopefully, we will be able to get an order in by next week to be able to vaccinate another batch of people the second week or the first week of March. Obviously, there are some delays right now because of the winter storm, so that is a delay that is nationwide on getting that vaccine distributed to a lot of vaccination centers around our country, and including here to Edwards. So there's that possibility that there may be some delays, but they are pressing to try to get us a vaccine sometime next week. Hopefully we'll get another batch and then be able to put out some Eventbrite links to our phase 1A and 1B population to be able to get that vaccine, hopefully by that first week in March. So people will be able to get that Eventbrite link. The 1A and the 1B will be prioritized because that is the second allocation was specifically for our phase 1B population. We've been working hard on getting our catchment area of our beneficiaries 75 and older knowledge of that vaccine, and to be able to schedule that when it does come through. So we're working hard at the mega group to try to make sure that we are getting our population and that vaccine availability. When our second batch comes, there will probably be some opportunity for phase 1C to be able to get that vaccine as well through the Eventbrite link and register for that. So definitely more to come next week once we get some final word on when our vaccine is going to be able to be here. But some good news as well with that, especially with the Pfizer vaccine. There was approved to be able to get 6 doses out of that vaccine versus the 5 that was originally by the manufacturer. That now there's approval for 6, and in some instances people have been able to get 7 doses. So that has been really, really encouraging that we will probably be able to vaccinate more people with the same vial with different syringes that we were able to purchase, and different techniques to be able to draw more of that the vaccine from the vial. So definitely more to come on that, but we've been able to deliver get more people vaccinated than we were expecting to be able to do. So that's a really good news story for that. Some other things from the Med Group, we did create a COVID hotline as well. So that is basically our Med Group main phone number, option 1. So if there are, once we get our second batch, if you can register through Eventbrite, but if you need a call to make an appointment for that, we will be able to do that through our hotline. You'll be able to get information about COVID testing. You'll be able to report your off-base positive test results to our public health via that main number, option 1 COVID hotline. So that information should be out on the COVID page as well. But another reminder that our testing center is open. So if you do need to get tested, if you have symptoms, if you're a close contact, that is available from 7:30 to 1 o'clock at our main clinic. And if you happen to get tested off base, please call public health to let them know if it is positive, or if you're a close contact to somebody, please let public health know that you are, because we are still tracking that. We are still managing all of that. It has been great for the community that our numbers have gone down in the community. Our ICU beds are a little bit more available. Hospitalizations have gone down. And it's been because of you all doing the right thing and continuing to do the right thing. So still encourage you to continue to do the right thing. Even though people have had vaccines, it is still needed that everybody still do the physical distancing, the mask wear. Those are the behaviors that we've been doing this for now a year. And so it is known behaviors, you know what to do at this point. And so make that individual risk assessment. When you go out and about in the community, whenever anything happens, you can make your own individual risk assessment, what is safe and what isn't safe. You're trusted to be able to do that, and you know what to do in every situation. It doesn't have to get spelled out. Make that individual risk assessment, and you know at this point what to do. So definitely thank you very much for doing the right thing and being able to do the right thing at every single time. And because that does help you, it helps the community overall, and it helps open things up and get things back to the new normal, as it were.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Colonel Westy, thanks, and Chief, thanks. I'll just touch on 2 points, one brought up by Chief and then one brought up by Colonel Westy. So again, when the POTUS memo came out, our public affairs staff did an outstanding job in terms of helping us make a quick video to explain kind of what the base posture was going to be. We're trying a different tact now. Rather than put out very hard written guidance, because we learned, some things were good with that, some things not so much, but we learned that people understand videos and presentations that way just because folks get their information via smartphone. And so what we were attempting to do with the video when we did HBCOM Bravo coupled with the memo that we got from POTUS was just to explain in just basic layman's terms and day-to-day practical advice, like what does that really mean? And really at the end of the day, it's common sense, right? So for instance, we're in this studio right now. I have Chief Eishen sitting to my left. I got Colonel Westy sitting to my right. They keep the fans off in here so that way you can hear us talk. So we're in an indoor environment that's not really greatly ventilated. And so for that reason, we're wearing the mask. When we complete here and we walk outside and we're walking back towards the building, to Chief's point, if we're spaced out sufficiently far, I'm surrounded by trillions of cubic feet of air. It's moving at a certain velocity. The whole point is to prevent the aerosols, if you will, from impacting someone else. And if I'm outside of that threat radius, if you will, I'm fine to drop the mask. It's totally fine. If I'm running, to Chief's point, I'm going to drop the mask. If I'm hiking back behind the base somewhere, I'm going to drop the mask. I keep one on me just in case I run into someone, maybe, but I'm not wearing the mask while I'm trying to do physical activity outdoors for all those reasons. So if I'm standing around like what we had at the U.S. Space Force transfer ceremony, and I'm standing in a spot where there's a high probability I'm going to come within pretty close distance and we're not really moving or anything else like that, you bet, man, the masks are up. But in a lot of other scenarios, the mask can come down. So really, we believe that we're operating within POTUS intent. We're operating within the commander's intent, if you will, to just apply common sense. We've been doing this now for, man, almost a year, if you can think about it that far. It's almost been a year since this thing really exploded in our face last year. And so by this point, people have kind of gotten some pretty good experience on this. And so really what we're saying is, hey, we're in HPCOM Bravo. A lot of things are opening up on the base. Gym facility access, right? Opening up on the base. Theaters, bowling alleys, restaurants, those sorts of things, right? And exercise common sense and good behaviors, right? We see the numbers, we see the data, and it seems like people are getting it. So just exercise common sense is really what we're trying to say. To Colonel Westy's point, I never should miss an opportunity to thank our med group for what they've done, because even in a spot in which we have restricted access to the vaccines just because there's nationwide shortages, they have still found a way through a lot of alchemy and sorcery to be able to squeeze out more doses out of the vials that have been given to us, which allows us to expand our ability to vaccinate the folks who want to do that. So the vaccines are still 100% completely and totally voluntary. But for the guys that raise their hands, the ladies and men that raise their hands and want to get it, our med group, I think, has done a spectacular job setting up the right distribution point and then being exceptionally efficient about using the vials that we have received to be able to expand that to the most amount of people that want it. So again, thanks on that. There was a question that came in while we were chatting, and it was about Edwards personnel. If we've been asked to participate in any type of relief efforts that are happening in the center part of our country, mainly Texas, if you will, the snowstorms, Uri, that rolled through there and caused massive blackouts, freezing temperatures, busted pipes, all those sorts of things. The answer, at least so far, is no. We have not been requested to go down that route. They have asked to make sure that we're accountable for people that might be affected, and they've asked if there's been any impacts that have happened with Edwards Air Force Base. But as of yet, we haven't been asked to task personnel to go to the center part of the country to be able to help on relief efforts. Typically, when those sorts of things happen, and it's not just this particular snowstorm, but in general, the first avenue of approach is the local disaster relief capabilities via law enforcement or any types of health relief that come that way. And then only in the event in which those are overwhelmed do they then do a defense support for civil authority kind of request that comes from Secretary of Defense all the way down to whatever local units to be able to provide military support out that way. So far, that has not happened for personnel at Edwards Air Force Base. Any other questions come in, Chief?
We've got a few, sir.
Okay,
actually, so I know you went through a discussion on masks, but there was a specific question, and
Yeah,
I think giving
please.
an answer would be good. So is it mandatory for a child to have to wear a mask at the outdoor parks on base?
Yeah. So for the children's side of it, and Colonel Westy can provide some more details on this as well. So the answer, I mean, they're kids, they play, right? We try to keep them spaced out, but as far as I'm tracking, there's no mandate on the mask wear for that. Do you have any thoughts or put on there?
Sir, I mean, under 2, it's not mandated because of safety issues with the mask. I would say it's encouraged, but like Colonel Gordon said, it's outside. The kids are playing around. If they're not really around other kids, there's no one out there. It's just your family. I don't see a specific reason they would need to wear it. But if there's other families around or there are other kids around, kind of playing on the playground, I think it's more to the point of common sense and just common courtesy. That, hey, if your child can wear a mask around the other kids, it's probably not a bad idea because they're going to be close together. They're probably going to try to get on the swings or the slides together and running up and down, climbing on the structure. So I would say it's more of a, a common courtesy to have your children above 2 wear a mask, just like everybody else around in the play structure. So, it's, again, a lot of this is just common courtesy, just kind of being that colleague, that community, that neighbor, to be able to kind of do what is probably the best thing to do.
So if it was so I have an 8-year-old son. If my son wants to go play on the slide, and he's by himself, there's no other kids at the park, I'm fine with him not having his mask on. However, I'm going to have it with me because as soon as another kid shows up, if we want to stay, we need to put that mask on. I would, however, caution, just like I'd caution all parents, if you ever went to a park and assumed that that park was clean, and that all those surfaces are clean, everything that was on that surface pre-COVID is still on that surface with now possible COVID as well. And so making sure that we wash hands and we keep ourselves clean, that would be my recommendation.
And if I could say, sir, like
yes,
I had my 3 kids, we went to the playground and they had no problems wearing their masks. I was actually really surprised, but they kept it on without an issue, and it wasn't for me having to say anything. So I know it's possible. I saw the other kids wearing masks too, so it's definitely, kids adapt a lot easier, very easily, I think. So I think if they can wear a mask and there's other kids around, it's probably, like I said, it's probably just common courtesy to be able to do that. And they had a great time. It was fun.
Yeah, and it's a common courtesy thing. We talked a little bit about this in the short video that PA helped to produce. Here's, I learn this every day, which is that, to Colonel Westy's point, I think that's a good way to think of it. It's a common courtesy kind of thing. So, yeah, you yourself might not have that much of an issue if you contract COVID, but you never really know what's going on in someone else's life or their families or whatever else, and that, the kids suddenly become spreaders for that as well. So, yeah, common courtesy, right? To Chief's point, you show up, you're the only ones there, fine, have at it, right? Someone else arrives, and if they ask you, right, not the time to get into a big discussion about politics or what you read on social media the other night. We're all on the same team, right? We're Edwards family. If they ask, just put the mask up, right? And not make it a big deal of it. So there's ways with which to do it and to execute that common sense and common courtesy that Colonel Westy is bringing up. But there's a danger, right? And we've learned this just from previous iterations of this as we went back and forth through different HP cons. If we start writing a very defined specific rules about what and what not, there's no way with which to cover every possible situation that you might encounter. And in a weird way, the more rules you write, the more rules that you have to write, because it generates this mindset of what if, and then it prevents people from just executing common sense and best judgment in that particular scenario. So that's what we're trying to get to, is common sense, best judgment in that scenario, and then common courtesy, right, to Colonel Westy's point, to your fellow Edwards teammate, that if for whatever reason they've got things going on in their life and there's vulnerabilities that are there and they're asking you to put up your mask, just do it. It's okay, man. I mean, there'll be larger things to go deal with as an Edwards community, more so than just masks. Okay, next question.
Yes, sir. So I'd like to tag this one. So the question is, since we're in HPCon Bravo, why do we still need a commander's letter to get people on base? And so,
yeah, go ahead.
So I'd like to jump in at the beginning, sir. So, if you look at the stat, like we're in HPCon Bravo, which is great. If we look at the peak that we've had so far, we were getting 47 to 50,000 new cases a day in California. That's a ton. Now we're at 7,000, which doesn't feel like a lot. And in percentage-wise, if we look at that peak, it's not. If we look back at the last time we were at 7,000, between June, July, and August, which was actually a really uncertain and kind of scary time for a lot of people, we were within 7,000 to 9,000. Those were all the numbers were. But compared to 10 people or compared to 100, 7,000 seemed huge. We were actually, if you looked at the graph, at that time and you cut it down, we were going parabolic. Now, that became a new normal, and then we stayed that way for a while until we went up again. And so what I don't want people to do is, because we have loosened restrictions, because the base seems safer, it means that the pandemic is over. Right now, the numbers are still there. These are numbers we were very scared of back in June, July, and August. And so during that time frame, the base commander put us in a mission essential posture, which meant we only brought in people based on the mission and the risk to COVID. As we've been able to mitigate that risk using masks, using vaccines, using knowledge of the virus, we've been able to accept more mission. But we still are in a mission essential posture. And so the wing commander said, as long as we maintain that mission essential posture, visitors, extra people coming to the base that are not mission essential, require at least a commander or a director, and then he moved it into the senior enlisted leader arena as well. And so those people, somebody has to come up and say, I'd like to get my father on the base, let's say, if my parents were coming out to visit. I could do that, but I need the wing commander or the wing vice to approve that. And that's happened in certain situations, even in HPCon Charlie. Certain commanders approved it because it was necessary for their airmen. But we need someone to say that those people are mission essential or they are okay to be brought on, as opposed to what we had prior in an HPCon normal situation where anybody could come to the base. If we can't bring currently retirees to the base and people who have actual access based on the benefits that they've been giving, it's hard to bring in just any visitor we want. And so that was kind of the mindset behind it. And right now, until we get into that HPCon Alpha or a normal situation, that's where the current policy stands. Sir?
Yeah, that's a fair point, and I couldn't have said it better than what Chief. I mean, that was exactly more or less what I was going to say as well. Now, the good news is, again, it's delegated down. It's not like that's held at a very high level, and your unit commanders and your senior enlisted are just exceptionally good at risk management for this, and we trust their judgment. So 99% of the time, you go talk to them, chances are you're going to find a way with which to actually sponsor that person onto the base. But it's the reason, so we're in HPCon Bravo, right? So in Bravo, it's like FPCon Bravo, where there still is a risk that's out there. It's not like we're in Alpha or Zero. Now, my personal hope is that we can further decrease to Alpha and eventually get back up to Zero, but that's still going to take some time away. What we're trying to communicate is we're not nearly as bad as what we were in Charlie. So far, we don't see any trends that would have put us towards Delta. Instead, what we see good weather, smart behaviors, vaccines rolling out, and the numbers in the local area. And for all those reasons, we go, okay, we're in good shape to go to Bravo and be able to open things up again, to be able to provide more access for families on the base and to be able to help out folks that are coming in off the base as well. Okay, next question.
So one question, I'd like to jump on this one, sir.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, you had mentioned the phrase new normal, and somebody's asking for kind of what does that mean? And I think all of us probably have a different take on it. So there is no, from my standpoint, there is no official definition of new normal. Colonel Gordon just brought up Force Protection Condition Bravo. When I first came into the Air Force, we were not in Force Protection Condition Bravo. FPCon Bravo was a thing we exercised. When you came onto the gate, if our retirees and some old people like me remember this, you just got waved on. You had a sticker on your car. They waved you on. If you were an officer, they saluted because the sticker was blue, and that was how easy it was to get on. September 12th came around, and that morning of September 12th, after September 11th happened, 2001, the line to get on base was 4 hours. That was at Tinker, and I think at every other base it was very similar. Since then, I don't know a base that's gone back to FPCon Alpha. There has always been some sort of heightened terrorist threat, or at least enough of a threat to maintain FPCon Bravo. And so FPCon Bravo became the new normal. Stopping at the gate and showing ID became the new normal. Scanning with TSA and all of the security scanning that happens at the airport, that wasn't a thing. Your family member could go to the gate with you and hang out. The new normal is they can't do that. And so based on this scenario and based on the fact that we're still almost a year later in this HP condition, there's many people that believe there's something that's going to trail with this, meaning it could be for me that masks are just part of it. I'm not saying I'm going to wear a mask for the rest of my life, but I think having a mask in my bag, and when I have to go TDY a lot, and I'm sitting on an aircraft around a lot of people, I probably should have been wearing a mask beforehand. With the amount of times I got the flu or got picked up some virus sitting on a plane, that may not have happened had I been wearing a mask or had others. And so that's probably something that I will stay with, not every day, not everywhere, but in certain situations I'm probably going to feel more comfortable wearing that mask. I can tell you I know people who are washing their hands way more than they probably were before, sanitizing their hands way more, and so maybe that is what new normal is for them. But it's weird right now when I watch a movie, and it's a movie that was pre-COVID, and there's a large group of people all hugging. That's great, and it's awesome that they get to do it, but it's just kind of weird looking because I'm so used to what is kind of becoming the new normal, and I hope some of those things don't. I hope we can still maintain large gatherings and hang out with people, but I think everybody's going to be a little bit more careful when they do end up hanging out with new people or people that they're not used to being around, and just keeping a little cleaner than maybe they did before. So for me, that's what the new normal is, but I'd love to hear, ma'am, sir, you guys.
I would agree with you, Chief. I think some of the things that we've learned from this pandemic may last. So like the hand hygiene, just knowing how to do that and being able to do that more effectively. The mask wear, at this point is probably going to be currently the new normal. But again, hopefully not forever. Hopefully we don't have to do this forever. But in different cultures, it is something that they've just been doing for years and years, and it's normal for them. So I think we're learning a lot more about this virus and this pandemic. But the concern obviously is there may be other future pandemics and different things that may be coming through. So I think it's just the new normal is how we've adapted to this situation and how we've grown from this situation and what those long-term adaptations might be. And so as we go through it, we will find out what that is together, and just being able to be flexible and being able to adapt. I think that's that resiliency that we have as a community, which is great to have that adaptation, that resiliency for this.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, and very similar to what Colonel Westy and Chief Eischen are talking about. So when I first started test pilot school, one of the officers that was with us at test pilot school was an exchange officer from Japan. And so in that culture, when folks got sick or felt like there was an increase of infectious disease, they wore masks. This is back 2005. Now, as an American culture, we looked at that and said, wow, that's weird and bizarre and strange. From his culture, that was just normal to be able to prevent spread when you're living on an island and you don't really have anywhere else to go. And so, to me, when I saw that, it was kind of like, haha, that's weird, or whatever, back in those days. Nowadays, I look at it and go, wow, that was actually pretty smart. The way that I know that, by the way, is our flu numbers. So no matter what people might have politically or social media-wise with respect to COVID, I think universally we all understand flu because we've dealt with that all of our lives. The same precautions that we've taken to prevent the spread of COVID have had a dramatic, impressive improvement performance in terms of the spread of the flu, because the med group briefs me on those numbers as well, and we are orders of magnitude below where we would normally be. So to Chief Eichen's point about people being a bit cleaner than what they normally would have been, perhaps the wear of masks, the awareness of the fact that there's infectious disease and that we need to preserve some distance, I think he's right. I think Colonel Westy's right. I think we're going to take something from this heading forward about how we as a society deal with public health kind of issues. But to me, once I saw the flu numbers, forget about COVID, when I saw the flu numbers, that was eye-opening. We are data-driven types of folks, and that is undeniably good data that speaks to the idea of where mask wear and hand washing and physical distance helps when you're at increased risk of public health spread.
I'd like to add another thing. So this town hall is a new normal, I know, for the wing.
Yeah.
Normally, when we would do wing commanders calls, it would be a bunch of us in the base theater, and we do that once a quarter. We can only fit around 200 people in the base theater, and we would live stream that to a few hundred more. But we never had the interaction with the base and the community like we do now. We won't continue doing this on a weekly basis forever. There's no reason to do that. However, we've talked about maybe a monthly, or at least when we do our quarterly, it will be on here. And so this is part of our new normal. The fact that when we did our Space Force crossover ceremony, we had family members from all over the world be able to dial in because we were able to live stream that. And so that's not something we used to do on a regular basis for ALS graduations and for special events on this base. The new normal is, regardless of whether we go back to our primary locations and it's a formal dinner again, we will still have that virtual live stream option because there are people who can't be there, and now we can have parents and loved ones and family members share that experience with their airmen. And so that's another good thing as far as new normal goes. And so there'll be so many other lessons learned that each unit, each situation that we've been able to take away. And then we can take advantage of those and continue using those as we move forward. So next question for you. What specific numbers are you looking for in order for the base to move back into an HPCon Alpha?
Good question. Are there specific numbers? So the question was about numbers to look for Alpha to be able to move up. So it's a good question. We don't really have direct numbers specifically that we're looking for. It's more in terms of trends. So every week, and sometimes several times a week, we're watching the trends to be able to make some decisions of kind of where we're at, right? To Chief Eichen's point, in November, December, when we were seeing numbers of that magnitude, suddenly 7,000 seemed like a really good number. But 7,000 is still a pretty large number compared to where we would normally be. When you look through the definitions of what counts as HPCon 0 and what counts as HPCon Alpha and what counts as Bravo, they're written a bit subjectively, but they use words like significant, right? So in Bravo, there's still a very much increased risk of this. In Alpha, by the way, that risk is still there as well. So big picture, is there a specific number to look for? No, it's more in terms of trends. One thing that we're kind of paying close attention to now, especially with the help of our public health professionals, is the virus itself has mutated. And so if you're watching several news outlets, you'll see different areas of the world that they're saying, well, this has now been found in the United States and it's a mutation, and how significant are the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines to be able to combat that. In a lot of places, we're still gathering data on what that is. Given the shortages that have happened with respect to the distribution of the vaccine, coupled with the fact that the virus itself is mutating, we've opened up things on base with the notion being that we can gradually increase that over time if the trend is still looking correct, based on the fact that we're still at risk of the mutations of the virus. And so there's no direct hard number. It's more trend-based, and it's based on the context and the information of what we have at the time. What I can say now, at least in this forum, is the numbers look good, and they're trending in the appropriate way. And as that continues to go, you will notice on our Facebook and our webpage that you'll see more and more expanded service. And if we see that the risk from the mutations is low and that we're not seeing what we were thinking we might be at risk for, then we can entertain going to alpha. But there's no hard specific number on that. Anything else to add to that, ma'am? Or?
No, sir.
Okay, great.
On the spot.
Cool. What else?
Oh, okay. Here's a question for you, sir. You're probably the only one in this room that can answer it.
Great.
Okay. Question on how to become a test pilot.
Yeah.
The person texting in is 22 years old and recently graduated with a total of 64 college credits, but without a degree. They want to have the best opportunity to become a pilot, and specifically a test pilot. And any advice that you can give this unnamed member, sir?
Yeah, it's no worries. To be a pilot, doesn't matter what degree you have whatsoever. No one cares. You can have a degree in basket weaving. Doesn't matter. If you wanted to go the general aviation route, they don't even require college degree, right? Just certain physical fitness requirements, if you will, and be able to pass certain knowledge tests and practicals to be able to go do that. Incidentally, flying general aviation is an absolute blast. It is a lot of fun. I've had a chance to do a lot of different types of aviations. GA is still one of my favorites. Even having flown things like F-22s and F-16s or whatever, still walking up to a Cessna 172 and going out for the $100 hamburger is a lot of fun. So by all means, I highly encourage that. Now, if you want to become a test pilot, that's a little bit of a different filter. To be a test pilot, you do need to have a undergraduate degree and preferably even an advanced degree like a master's degree, and it must be something in the field of STEM. Traditionally and really heavily focused on the E, right, in STEM, the engineering and the mathematics side. So typically, if you want to be a professional Air Force test pilot, you will typically see aero engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering kind of background, and typically you will see advanced degrees that come out of that. So that's baseline. You must do that. To be a test pilot, you typically must be an operational pilot first, and so we like to see folks that have a number of years of experience, usually about 3 to 5 years or so of operational experience. And that's driven by the idea that what you're testing, you got to be able to put yourself in the position of a brand new pilot that's trying to use this system in combat at night in the worst possible weather. And the only way that you can really have empathy for that person is if you were that person yourself. So you just don't directly become a test pilot. There's typically a seasoning process in which you build operational experience and credibility. We like people that typically become instructor pilots or evaluator pilots in whatever platform, right? Helicopters, heavies, bombers, fighters, doesn't matter. And typically, usually about 5-6 years or so into someone's Air Force career as a pilot, they now have the ability to apply for test pilot school. To join one of our classes and then eventually graduate and join one of our professional test forces going down that road. For the engineer side, we get them a little bit younger because they don't necessarily need to have all the flying experience, but for the engineering side, we expect them to be highly credible engineers. Again, same thing, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, aerospace engineer tend to be the most popular ones that we see, although you do see a couple onesie-twosies that are in other venues as well. For engineers, almost like for pilots, it's nice to have an advanced degree. For engineers, it's almost a requirement to have that because the expectation is that you are a professional engineer. Professional engineers care about their education and proceed on to the advanced levels. And so typically we'll get those at the 3 to 4 year kind of spot. Usually at the junior captain kind of level is when they can apply credibly for a slot at the Air Force Test Pilot School to be able to join us here in our professional communities. The nice thing, whether either track you go, right, pilot or engineer or WIZO or a number like rated air crew or not, once you get that patch on your shoulder, once you wear one of these, you are a part of a brotherhood and a sisterhood that is very, very small in our world. And so we all know one another. We all look out for one another. There's all types of opportunities in the private sector for professional graduates of the test pilot school. But that is a much more stringent, much more narrow path, if you will, if you want to become a test pilot. If you want to become a pilot, there are all types of ways with which to go do that, and I'd highly encourage you to proceed down those pathways. And if you want more information on that, by all means, send us a text. You can kind of reach out to me, and I can chat you through more about your specific situation. Okay, what else?
That's good, sir. That's the only question we have. I'm looking to see if we have any more running around that I missed. We'll give it a couple more minutes, sir. But no, and you guys can, again, we started these town halls really because we had so much COVID information to hand out because things were changing all the time. It's not happening anymore, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
And the things that are changing for the better. And so we want to clear up any confusion that exists with those. And then you've got the wing vice, you've got our public health representative, you've got me. I know some things, and so you've got a few of us here. And between this and then the group that we have, the 10,000 awesome airmen on the space, we can usually get an answer to you. So if you have any, please let us know.
So while we're waiting to see if any other questions come in, I did have one other kind of point to bring up. And this is to me, this is one of those things that makes the military very, very special, which is the community that we have and the opportunities that we have as big A airmen, right? Civilian, enlisted, officer, doesn't matter, right? We're all airmen, when we're working on this base. Before heading into the long weekend, something really, really cool happened, and I want to be able to put some thanks out there for the folks that were a part of it, and then also for the people that participated in it, because it was really special. There was a program that Arts in the Armed Forces, it's run by Adam Driver, which for all of you Star Wars nerds and fans out there like me, Adam Driver played Kylo Ren in the Star Wars series, and when he wasn't an actor, he was a Marine. And so he set up a program that kind of bridged those two worlds of his acting world, but then also the world of U.S. military. And it was a way to provide just kind of neat venues and forums for people to be able to participate and learn about the acting side and to be able to understand these stories and these movies and different drama things that have happened along the way. But to be able to talk about that directly with professional Hollywood actors. And so Edwards Air Force Base was selected for that program. And we got a chance to participate in that for the first time last Thursday as we were heading into the long weekend. So the actor that joined us was Eddie Gathegi, who starred in The Blacklist, starred in Twilight, starred in X-Men Avengers, has a couple other movies coming out now, one about Skid Row, those kinds of things. So really, really awesome. And the movie that he selected was Rocky. And so for the Edwards personnel that got a chance to be a part of that, and it was open to everyone, by the way, and it was advertised on our PA channels, and so much appreciated to those guys. It was a chance for Edwards personnel to be able to kind of sit and learn something about this movie that perhaps you never knew before, because you're being told this story as told from someone inside of the industry. And it was a chance for folks that maybe have had some aspirations, perhaps to do that in their second career once they leave the Air Force, to be able to talk to folks that are on that side. So that's one of many different opportunities that are going to start rolling out here on Edwards Air Force Base for the personnel. So Miss Christina Roach, who runs our, basically like our liaison, if you will, between the housing and the military guys. There's a number of events that are coming out now on the social media pages that are freely available and open available to kind of bring the community back together again as we go through 2021. So the Arts in the Armed Forces, that was set up by one of our very own spouses via Miss Dory Spalding, and was also set up with Miss Julie Wilbanks, our community support kind of coordinator. So they did a spectacular job. There will be more of those types of events that are coming down. Pay attention to what Miss Roach is putting out there with respect to our resident kind of advocacy. And there's just great opportunities to really try to rekindle what makes Edwards truly special, which is that we're here, we're together. It sort of feels like a remote base, and that remoteness is what kind of brings us together as a family and what makes serving here really hard. We lost some of that in 2020, just given what happened with COVID. But I kind of look at 2021 as like the year of a rebirth, if you will, of bringing that community back together again. And so I just wanted to say thanks to those ladies for really going the extra mile and trying to make things really awesome and cool for Edwards Air Force Base and the people that live here. Because I've never had that opportunity to sit down and talk with a professional Hollywood actor and hear their perspective on a movie that I've loved and seen 7,000 times before. But now listening to them describe it, it's like I'm seeing it for the first time. So again, thanks, and keep an eye out. These things are advertised as we push them out via social media and via our public affairs page as well. Any other questions come in?
Sir, there's a few that came in, but they were all really specific questions for individuals, and so I think I pointed them in the right direction, but nothing for the larger group at this time.
No worries. All right, we'll give it another minute or two. Colonel Westy, anything else to kind of bring forward for anyone?
Let's see. So our med group is still working hard to take care of your primary care needs, and so please, if you need anything from your provider, you can message them through our MHS Genesis patient portal. Or call us up. Just a reminder to get your preventive visits done, your preventive immunizations if that's needed. So we're still working hard. The med group was, and some other med groups in AFMC were tagged for the FEMA vaccine centers that are opening up, as there's some in California and some other states. So some of our members are tagged to deploy to assist the nation, as it were, to give out the COVID vaccine. So we're really proud to be able to have that opportunity to be able to do that for our community and for our nation at large. But we are still here for you, so please let us know at the med group if you need any type of services. Again, reminders that we still have our testing center open and available. Our vaccines will be continuously rolling out vaccines as we get it. We have not wasted one dose or one shot yet, so we're really proud of being able to do that. And we are here for you to serve and to provide any kind of services that we are able to do.
So wonderful. Thanks, Colonel Westy. And Chief, anything else real quick?
No, sir.
All right, fair enough. So we'll sign off, and we'll give guys back some time to start your weekends a bit early. The last thing I'll give you is, so we just handed out our 412 Test Wing annual awards. And man, oh man, I'll tell you, Edwards, even just beyond just the cool things that we get a chance to do here, I think what's even more inspirational is the people that we get to serve with here. As you read through these award packages, it was a really challenging problem, if you will, for all of the senior 06s and commanders on the base that got a chance to score them. Because as you read through these packages, you start really understanding just the commitment that people have to the mission of the base, the commitment that people have to each other, and just how much they were willing to give of themselves to be able to achieve that, given everything else that we were dealing with last year between George Floyd, between issues on social media and the weaponization of trust, right? And those things that people were dealing with as we saw things happening outside in the political sphere. And oh, by the way, a health pandemic, right, layered on top of all that. What I was most impressed by is that people were able to stay focused on mission, to maintain their professionalism, and to be able to achieve just amazing amounts of performance, even given all that. The analogy I always give is it's like if you're running, but you're running with a parachute strapped to your back. And even with that parachute kind of dragging, people were still able to sprint as if they were Carl Lewis. And so it was just amazing to be able to meet a lot of these teams and these individuals that won our awards here. And so we had to do it in a little bit of a different way, like everything else that we've had to do with respect to COVID. But even in that world, it was still nice to be able to meet folks face to face, to hear their stories, to understand what they dealt with and how they're able to achieve and help out their fellow Edwards Airmen. So as you meet these folks, the annual award winners, I mean, there's an email that's gone out, there's a video that's posted out there about the award ceremony. Pat them on the back, make sure that you kind of let them know how much you really appreciate what they did, because it's really, really inspirational to serve with men and women of that caliber here on this base. So just a personal thanks from me to all of our nominees, and a personal congratulations to all of our award winners for what happened over the previous year and winning at that level. It is a spectacular accomplishment that you should be very proud of. And with that, I'll go ahead and wish everyone a happy Aloha Friday and a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.